Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's build is going to be a little bit different from anything I've featured before. As you can see, I'm starting out with a brand new Seiko SWR087. To start this one off, I've already removed the case back. There's actually a small surprise hidden there, which I'll reveal at the end of the video. With the case back off, I can take out the black movement spacer from the watch. With the movement spacer now out of the way, I can push down on the stem release lever with a pair of tweezers and gently pull out the crown stem. And now that the crown stem is out, I can take my Bourgeon pad, place it on the back of the case, flip everything over, and the movement will fall straight out. Now that the movement's out of the case, I can work on removing the hands. To help with this, I've purchased a new tool. While the classic hand levers work well for popping the hands off their post, I'm always concerned I'm going to damage the dial in the process. This new tool is based off a Horatech design and is made to remove the hands without making contact with the dial. The movement is first slid into place below the extractor arm. The extractor arm is lowered and the U-shaped jaw is set under the hand. A pin is then tightened down from the top to secure a good grip on the hand. While the movement is held in place, the extractor arm can be slowly lifted straight up, removing the hand from its post. When done correctly, nothing comes in contact with the dial, eliminating any chance of scratching it. While the NH35 is known for having a rather tall hand stack, leading to a good amount of space between the hands, this movement is the opposite, with the hands being tight to each other and sliding right above the dial, making it a little bit difficult to get the extractor arm under them. I apologize, as I've been trying some new camera mounts and positions for the second camera. Obviously, this one doesn't work as my left hand gets in the way of showing the work being done. You'll see here that the hour hand has been popped off its post and is sitting in the jaws. Using my wooden tweezers to minimize the risk of scratching the hand, I can remove it from the jaws. With that step complete, I can look at removing the dial from the movement. There are two dial feet that insert into the movement and are held in place by friction. All I need to do is get a flathead screwdriver between the back side of the dial and the movement, and I can gently wiggle the dial off. I want to mention that this build comes courtesy of the one and only Mike, who was looking to commission a build similar to a two-tone Cartier Pathere for his wife. Initially, I was skeptical I'd be able to create something similar due to the lack of parts and the size of the NH movements. Then, while searching around, I came across this two-tone SWR087, though it more closely resembles the Cartier Tank. I presented it to Mike, and he was all for it. One of the reasons behind taking apart the entire watch was that Mike requested a personalized dial that resembled the Cartier Tank dial and featured the letters AML. This stands for All My Love, All My Life, and has become a staple of watches he gifts to his wife. Making this dial ended up being quite the process. First, I measured the length, width, and thickness of the stock dial. I then gave those dimensions to Kelen, the owner of the laser shop I use, who used the dims to cut brass blanks which would later become the new dial. Using a graphic design program, I recreated the tank-style dial, complete with the proper minute track and Roman numerals which were scaled to the correct dimensions. Now comes the tricky part. Getting the design from the program onto the dial. The best method in this case turned out to be water slide decal paper. A water slide decal is a type of transfer paper that uses water to release a printed design from its backing, allowing it to slide onto a new surface. These are often used in model building for applying numbers, logos, and insignias. Once the dial design was printed, I cut the decal to size and dropped it into water. The water loosens it from its sheet and activates the adhesive. From there, I can carefully transfer it onto the dial blank and adjust it until it's properly aligned. The decal is then left to dry and adhere to the brass blank. Another request Mike had was swapping out the stock blued hands for a set of gold hands. This Seiko utilizes the 4N30 movement. Originally, I tried to search for hands using the movement as a reference, though that didn't return any results, so I moved on to searching by the hole size. I did a little research and found that the stated hand hole sizes for the 4N30 were 0.45mm and 0.9mm. I ordered a set of generic gold hands in the same style as the originals, however when they arrived, they were too small. Even with the naked eye, I could tell that the holes were not big enough. I did still try to place them, but even with a great deal of pressure applied, the hands did not seat. I ended up going back and ordering the same style of hands in a variety of sizes, then test fitting them to the movement. Once I found an hour and minute hand that fit, they were taken and sized down. With the watch being much smaller than a standard watch, the hands needed to be shortened to fit within the confines of the case. To do this, I placed the gold hands next to the blue hands to get a rough estimate of size. Then, using some nippers, I cut them down just above the size of the originals. Then, while holding the Dremel in my left hand and the hand in my right at a slight angle, I began to carefully remove material. I held the hand at an angle so that it would be ground down to a point, which is more aesthetically pleasing and closer to the original. Once happy with the length and the point of the hand, I checked to make sure that it was still straight, removed any burrs, and cleaned up any dust and oil before setting it aside. Luckily, the absence of a seconds hand meant I only had to do this process twice. Dial dots again make an appearance on the channel. These are just small, thin pieces of double-sided tape used to hold the dial in place when dial feet are absent. I'm going to use 2 tabs for this build as there isn't a ton of space due to the movement being so small. One final thing to mention on this build's dial, I actually plan to have somebody else create it. Within the community, there is a highly regarded dial maker. His work looked good, so I reached out and provided him with files and my overall design for the dial. He accepted and gave me a price, which I offered to pay up front. He declined and said he would get back to me. I checked in a few weeks later and no progress had been made. Then, after another long period of no communication, I checked back in to find that still no progress had been made on the dial. Pretty shocked at this point, I decided that the only way this dial was going to get made was if I did it myself. To install said dial, I started by peeling off the protective layer on the dial dot to expose the adhesive. I inserted the crown stem back into the movement as well. With it inserted at the 3 o'clock position, I can align the 3 o'clock marker with the stem. From there, I can carefully center the hand stack over the center hole in the dial and press it down to secure it into place. With the dial affixed, I can move on to getting the hands set in place. Starting with the hour hand, I'll use my wooden tweezers to get it onto its post and into position. With this movement not having a date function, I am free to set the hour hand anywhere as I can use the crown to rotate it around until it lines up with the 12 o'clock marker. One thing that made the hand installation difficult was the size of the movement. With the movement being so small, my movement holder was unable to get a good grip on it. This has happened before when I was building the NH05 watch for my girlfriend. In that build, I simply used the Caseback for support and built off that. In this case, I had to close the movement holder's jaws as tight as I could and then rest the back of the movement on them. Once the hand was on its post, I went old school and used my freestanding hand setting tools to firmly but gently push the hand down into place. Moving on to the minute hand. To get this hand in place, I've picked it up with a bit of Rodico, and with the help of my wooden tweezers yet again, I can get it placed onto its post. It's a little bit off here, so using the tweezers I can nudge the hand until it's directly over the hour hand and lined up with the 12 o'clock marker. For some reason, getting this hand set was a bit more difficult than usual, and I was forced to do it off camera. Similar to the previous builds, the caseback gasket needs to be lubricated prior to being installed. This again just helps to prevent the gasket from drying out and cracking, which could affect the water resistance of the watch. Here I use a micro Q-tip that was lightly dipped in silicone grease to carefully apply a thin coating of grease to the gasket. I want to achieve a light but even coating to reduce the chance of excess grease being trapped in the case. While I case up the movement, I want to give a big thank you to Mike and Christina. They have always been great supporters of the channel and have kept me busy with their unique builds like this one. It's because of their understanding and patience that I can experiment with new things and expand not only my own skill set, but also what is showcased on these videos. I also want to say thank you to Kelen for his laser work help. Again, without him, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be possible. He worked tirelessly to ensure that the dial fit perfectly within the case. Kelen is also the man behind all of the engravings on this channel, and this watch is no different, as it bears a pretty special etching on the caseback. At one point, Mike was considering having the Golden State Watch Shop logo featured on the dial. We later moved on to using AML, which is much more apropos for this watch. Mike still wanted the watch to feature some kind of Golden State Watch Shop branding, and we decided that the caseback was a good place for it. I actually like this idea of an engraved caseback much better, as the logo wouldn't be the focal point of the build and would instead be hidden. So back to the laser shop I went. Kelen and I played with the laser settings as we wanted to achieve a similar finish to the Seiko markings already etched onto the caseback. After some testing on a sheet of stainless steel, we lined everything up and let it run, and I'm really happy with the results we got. Unlike the screw-down casebacks of previous builds, this caseback actually just snaps into place with enough force. As you can see, near the bottom of the caseback are the serial number and some other generic text. Then above that is Seiko, and then above that is the Golden State Watch Shop logo. I really like that we were able to color match the engravings, making it flow seamlessly. The final step in this build is to reconnect the bracelet. For this, all I need to do is get the pin inserted into the links in the correct orientation and then use the back of my tweezers to push it down into place. And with that, she's complete. This one took a bit longer than it should have, but I was really pleased with the final result, as were Mike and Christina. Again, thank you very much to both of you for this opportunity and for your continued support of the channel. I also want to say thank you to all of you for tuning into these videos and supporting the channel as it continues to grow. If you or somebody you may know is interested in a custom watch, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to discuss the build in more detail. Gonna stick to just studio shots to cap this one off. As always, thanks for watching.